Good evening. We are picking up where we left off last time. I anticipate that we'll probably finish tonight. Starting in this area has reminded me that what I was doing was going around collecting all of the ability spheres. So it's probably worth my time to actually finish that before I proceed further. But actually, I might need an upgrade to get like a couple of these, so maybe I should just like proceed. Like, they're very worth getting, but like... I can like finish the plot and then finish the map. And hopefully not get eaten by fish along the way. Where am I? There we are. I was like, I'm in there somewhere, surely. Yeah, I think I'll actually proceed with the actual plot for now. And then I'll worry about completing everything. Though I will still grab things along the way. We have a plan. In the meantime, I simply have to remember how to play this game. Which usually doesn't take too long to refresh myself on. I am partially regretting the lack of combat upgrades, but only partially. In my mind, the exploration upgrades are more than adequate compensation. Also, yay, more life. Come along with me, please. If memory serves, I have to... Oh no. Memory did not serve, in fact. That's gonna be like, if memory serves, I have to shoot that thing's projectiles back at it. My memory did not adequately warn me about the laser. Luckily, I didn't need warning about the laser, and I was able to survive just fine without it. The fact that this thing gives experience when it dies makes me want to try finding a place where, like, I can find one of these things and then like bait it into rolling at me. But like I'm totally safe. And I can go AFK and just farm experience indefinitely. Okay, that is not a thing that I can blow up like that. I, however, am a thing that can be blown up like that. It is good to be mindful of your own limitations. I feel like I wasn't supposed to approach this that way, but if it works out, it works out. I need another one of those little green guys, please. I'll live without. Oh, darkness brought them to this forsaken place. I've always been a fan of, like, stonework. Those dwarven aesthetics. Lava and obsidian. Obsidian, what? Lava and obsidian and so forth. Obsidian sounds like a rock type evolution. In my mind, I zipped under that thing and didn't take any damage whatsoever. It was very slick and cool. Reality doesn't always line up with our expectations, but we can make the most of it. Kind of like that, yeah. Okay, I think this water is going to kill me if I touch it. Going off of what happened last time. And this time. Okay. Oh, there's a hidden thing there. I didn't even see that. Though I suppose if I had, it would have missed the point of it being hidden. I don't think that's the right way I do that. Navigate the jump button. Yes, I do. We do love finding ability points. Especially on thresholds that unlock things. like making lifestyles show up on the map. Like that one right there. The notion that I may have just purchased an upgrade that put exactly one thing on my map. Nope, never mind, there's another one. Amuses me somewhat. Like, are you happy with your investment? Darkness brought them to this forsaken place. At the gates of Mount Horu, a tough decision was made. A tough decision, they say. Nibel's source of warmth, all its glory has burned. Let's be careful. Many of those that entered this place have never returned. Charles, welcome. You're here just in time to, see the start of this game's final dungeon. The element of warmth is close, but the mountain, I've never seen it this way. We have come so far, so much has been lost. You can't give up now, we must enter the fray. Yeah, it's basically Mordor. Ow. I am very grateful that I picked up that double defense upgrade, and suddenly concerned that it may not be enough. Ow. Is the ground here, like, superheated? Is that the problem? I think that is actually what the problem is here. Okay, mistakes for a minute. I guess I have to stay in midair. Somehow. That, or maybe it's don't spend too long on the ground rather than never touch it. Yeah, this thing's respawning, which means that the game wants me to make use of it. Presumably the stream of lava is not a safe, not a safe place to be. Come on, take a shot at me. Okay, like that, but like... while I'm closer to it, please. I'll do it myself. My light did not actually target the thing that I wanted to target. A possibility that I really should have foreseen. Oh, we can just ping off of it? Never mind. Easy mode, let's go. I thought I had to destroy those things before I could stand where they were. I wonder what that rune means. As they fought for their lives amidst the fires of Horu. I like how Nana's just like, bye. Well, at least Go's safe. Oh, Naru. Naru wished solely to see her child again. In my mind, her name is Nana. Okay, so presumably this is going to be related to the hard choice that they mentioned having to make. Here we go. In my head, I was like, if I can get on top of that, it's probably easier. Ori, these rocks appear unstable. Through my light, we might be able to use them to stop the lava from spreading. Yeah, let's just cork up volcanoes. What could go wrong? Presumably that's the, Presumably that's what might go wrong. Oh, hi, welcome. I am doing Ori. Ori is very much having a time of it. But it's okay because I'm cute. I'm like a fox monkey creature of some description, therefore nothing can ever go wrong. Except for that could go wrong. But like it won't. Canonically it didn't. You know, every now and then I wonder what it feels like to get crushed, like to death. But I've never once been inclined to, like, actually find out affirmatively. And that's probably for the best. But like, the thought is in my head, I could find out. It's kind of like one of those cursed thoughts, like, oh, just by the way, you're breathing. It's like, now I have to keep thinking about that, thanks. Yeah, presumably, I need to kill everything in here. And luckily, I'm totally on board with that. I feel like perhaps I wasn't supposed to kill everything in here. Or maybe I actually was, hold on. Nope, never mind, I actually was. Awesome. Get corked, Volcano. The icons on those, like, sigil tablet things are reminding me of the modifiers from Risk of Rain 2. Just like the way that they're presented and the way that, like, I don't know what they actually mean. It's kind of like evoking that. Though I'm pretty sure this game came first, so... it'd probably be more accurate to, say that Risk of Rain is reminiscent of Ori. I'm not actually sure. I shouldn't say that with confidence. Ow. I don't actually know which one came first. Speaking of other games reminding me of other games, this sequence out. This sequence is very much reminding me of the core from Celeste. And just without the chili segments. I understand now what the objective is. Onwards, noble steed. This looks like a thing that'll push down when I get up here through other means. Like that. I don't think that I was able to update my soul link, but I figured that I'd have better odds moving on from it than I would trying to make it work. And then I died 17 times in a row. Or some other number less than 17. As it turns out, lava's very hot. You enjoy the Fox Monkey's movements? Yes, they're very nice. I especially love like all the little acrobatic things you can do, like if I flip off of a wall. I literally just do like a little backflip sometimes. It's very satisfying. Oh, that is a laser. Ah, get snuck under nerd. Oh no. And then they killed me with lasers. Okay, do they do the laser and then like a projectile shot? Yes, they do. Alright. Oh, I think I see it. The icons on each, the icons on each thing indicate the type of trial I'll have to face. Yeah, I cannot kill these ones. But I can die in a fire. My skill set is very versatile. But again, I suppose that dying in a fire doesn't really require much of a particular talent. I feel like most people could do that if they tried. If I grab this, what happens? That does. Awesome. Mistakes were made. It won't turn around, so as long as I get past it, or as long as I move after it's past me, I don't have to worry about it, making me face consequences. Gotta be careful not to make my, my angle too, what's the word for it? Gotta be careful not to do an angle that'll get me killed. Okay, so that's made the overall lava level in the main chamber go down. These things do still have lasers, however. Oh, never mind. Now they can turn around. there's an invisible wall down there. Take a shot at me, please. Thank you. Okay, what can I accomplish now that the overall lava level is down? But I have actually started on either side of the top, and I should have actually been working down on both sides the whole time. Or is that not the case? I feel like maybe I should have been working on both sides the whole time. Oh well. I also still need to find the map stone. Because I did find the place to put the map stone, but I never found the map stone itself. And usually they're not that far apart from one another. So I guess if you think along those lines, I did have adequate warning that I should have come back up here earlier. These things do a lot of damage when they hit me. I kinda walked into that one. I am playing on hard mode though, I can't exactly, like, complain about, damage. Well, I mean, I could, it would just make me kind of petulant. Oh, I see a thing up there with a thing on it. A platform with a lever, that's what those words are. Okay, changing their positions is an all or nothing thing. Alright. I need to go fast while I'm getting up there. And I think I might be expected to, like, jump up like this. That or I could just throw a grenade and go up through the left opening. Like that, but with less force. Also, they're not actually called grenades. Grenade is like a later. Grenade is like a later power-up if memory serves. I think I'm supposed to go around the right. Going up the left feels just a little bit too tight. Oh, Almost. Putting my checkpoint here will make it easier to adapt this. If I grab onto the side, it slows me down just enough that it doesn't quite work. I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe I toss a light orb while I'm like this, and then I use it to get more speed. Actually, idea. It's a lot like my first idea, except I'm gonna try it more than once. There we go. Doing the same thing multiple times and expecting different results is the definition of progress. At least I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. What might the gimmick in here be? Do I have to rotate these switches? Yes, I do. I said rotate the switch, it's not really a switch, it's more of a beam emitter. But the sentiment stands. Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Wait, I thought you were already following me. Not complaining, just like, huh? Anything over here? Nope. Alright. Well, I appreciate the follow either way. I presume that the trial in here is just past precise movement. I mean, it's taking your two shadow follow. Oh, that's okay. These things happen. I've had a slightly follow-related intrusive thought in the past, which was, what if I just unfollowed and refollowed a bunch of times so that the streamer's like notification thingy would just keep saying my name? And then I was like, perhaps I shouldn't do that. But like, as long as you're not doing that, you're probably fine. I feel like I'm missing something. It's like a lot of those platforms on the way up did get destroyed. Okay, I think I can do this. I just need to actually use these things to refresh my jumps. Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. I'm just saying, like, that's an example of, like, a follow-related thing that, like, might actually cause problems. Accidentally unfollowing and then refollowing, no big deal. That one felt spiteful. I'm not entirely certain what prompts those things to either attack or retract. I feel like it's how close I am to them. But I'm not entirely sure where that threshold is, and if I'm too far away, I can't actually bounce off their projectiles. That counts. Oh, I just had a thought, which was Ori sounds like they're getting cooked whenever they stand too long on those heated rocks. And then I remembered what my original idea for tonight's stream title was. Which was, making fried chicken has never had such dire consequences. I ended up not going with that title because I try not to put plot points in titles, out of courtesy to people who are like browsing and may not know the plot. But I did have that thought. Mistakes have been made. So, have I accomplished anything? Oh. I haven't lowered the level of the lava enough to actually accomplish anything. I see that I'm not done in here. Alright. Grab that while we're here. Three more ability points, and I've maxed out my second skill tree. And then I can start speccing into actually doing damage. There we go. Thankfully they put a checkpoint here. Oh, there's still lava at the bottom. Okay. Oh, even just being near the lava makes me take damage. Gotta be careful about that. Now I can touch this well. Excellent. And over here we've got the type of gate that opens when you kill everything nearby. And a bunch of things all trying to kill me at once. This is fine. I don't need points in combat to handle you. Especially when Shockwave is low-key OP. And you just kind of like shoot each other without my intervention. Like, I actually didn't have to do anything, they just shot that guy on their own. This is fine. This looks ominous. The element of warmth is within our grasp. With the elements restored, we could undo the effects of her wrath. We did it. Which she didn't appreciate. I should go. Big shot at me, please. How am I to handle this? And then Kuro killed me. And then I forgot about the first obstacle and died. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing wrong there, other than maybe not being fast enough. Looks like I do think that slamming the ground is the right call, but if I'm not fast enough, I take damage doing that. So this shouldn't be faster. Never mind. Just being near the ground is hurting me there. I feel like I'm missing something. I mean, I obviously am on account of dying. Oh, Jigsaw, you were in fact the first person to redeem that. Ever, technically. Well done. Alright, I think what I was doing wrong is I was too close to the ground. And the solution is not to not go there, it's to be a bit higher off the ground when I do things. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Does light from the fire count? Yes, it does. I mean, if you think about it, pretty much all light is firelight, because basically all the energy that gets used on Earth originally came from the sun. Which is just a gigantic fireball. I'm gonna give this like 1 or 2 more tries, and then we gotta take a break. Just a 5-minute one, but a break nonetheless. Feels a little bit like an inadequate note to break on, though, if I don't finish this properly first. So with that in mind, I will try to step my game up. She says and then dies. Yep, bioluminescence is also originally sunlight. Okay, I think I bounce off the ground and then go straight to the wall on the left. Like, if memory serves, even if you go like keep underneath the ocean, where like no sunlight penetrates, they get most of their energy from deep sea magma vents. Which admittedly is Earth core energy, not sun energy, but like... they're both like Big Bang energy if you go back far enough, so... Shoot. Yeah, exactly. Like, even planetoids started out as starlight, basically. Alright, I'm throwing at this point. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I'll see you shortly. It bothers me that whenever I click off the game, it cuts out the BGM, but I don't think I can fix that. I return. And surely I'll first try this now. I've had a break to, calm my nerves, center myself. First try starting now. First try starting probably next try. Oh, I just had a thought. What if instead of trying to, ground pound down there, I use the wall cling burst through thing to, do that? That feels more correct on account of not taking damage. It's like, hold on a second, I've got other options. She left them to burn, thought she vanquished my light. Ori, please get up. That tree in the background's very pretty. Oh wait, that's like the spirit tree. Of course it is. It's farther away than I thought it was. The spirit tree, so close. He's our only hope left. The spirit tree is near. There's one more step to take. The forest of Nivelle will live once again. And I got bodied. It's like you thought you won. Nala's looking for me. Oh, I'm Nala. Perhaps as a fellow creature of darkness, Nala can appeal to Kuro. Yeah, now Kuro has to be like, am I really gonna do what was done to me? Am I gonna separate, like, mother from child? I still have a kid, but if it burns... I still have an egg, rather, but if it burns, if I complete my vengeance... I'll be ruining myself. And so Kuro decides that enough is enough. And willingly sacrifices herself to reignite the light. And now the forest can begin to regrow. This game is very pretty. I also feel a bit like a React content creator, just like describing what is very obviously happening directly in front of me. But I can't push buttons, and then I build up energy, and I'm just like, I have to yap instead. I still so adore this game's art style. I also like how there's like a ton of like light spirits again. It's no longer just me. And Gumo has joined the family. And Nala has adopted Kuro's last egg. It's a very lovely ending. I've never played the sequel, but I do know that in the sequel, Ori and Kuro's as yet unborn final child, like, are partners. I'm really interested to see how that actually plays out. I've never played that game, I've never actually seen gameplay of that game. While going into that one, pretty much totally blind. Now, that said, the credits are rolling. I'm not done with this. I want to go back in and, like, clear out the map. It's like, I bought all the upgrades, so let me see where literally everything is. I may as well. All the movement upgrades, all the side upgrades. Basically no combat upgrades, but I mean, I beat the game, I don't think I need those. It is a shame that Kuro's gone, because she did seem cool. If mad. Very, very mad. But still cool. Fun fact, the Unity logo is 3 axis arrows made to look like a cube. It's a shame that Unity kind of went off the deep end, because once upon a time I did learn a lot about that engine. I was gonna make a game in it. And then they did the aforementioned going off of the deep end, and I'm just like, well, I guess I better switch to something else. Though right now I'm mostly doing stuff in Blender. I'm trying to get better at the artistic side of things. I'd like to think that I'm a fairly charismatic person, but it's a bit much to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you want to make an entire game's worth of assets for no compensation? Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the details of that were, but basically, yeah, like, somebody on Unity's staff proposed, I think it was, as a potential example of, like, monetization, charging players, like, a real-world quarter if they wanted, like, an extra clip of ammo. I think they were using that as, like, an example of, like, ways that developers could more aggressively monetize their games, because it's like, Oh, you get somebody in the heat of the moment when they like really want something, and it's like time sensitive. And it's like such a small investment, they'll just do it. And I was like, I want nothing to do with any of that. And then they tried to like retroactively change their contract so that everybody who made something in Unity had to pay them per download, even if it like wasn't monetized at all. It's like if you made like a free app in Unity and got like 10 million downloads, Unity would come along and be like, hey, you owe me $100,000, something like that. Some very cute key art to end on. You know, extremely big yikes. Which again is why I was just like, hey, what if I used a different engine? Yeah, I'm not gonna freak out too much if I end up, what's the word? I'm not gonna freak out too much if I end up not, clearing the whole map by the time stream ends. But I'm just gonna spend the rest of the stream working towards that goal. Yeah, Godot's actually what I ended up deciding on as well. I was like, okay, my options are Unreal or Godot, pretty much. And one of those is open source and lightweight, and the other one is by the same company that's like really trying to push like AI and is kind of like notorious for like making really bloated games. It's like, how about I just go for Godot? What if I just filled my entire like workflow with open source software? Wouldn't that be awesome? There's an energy cell over there. I want that. Yeah, like it's not that Unreal Engine is bad per se, it's just that it gets used to make a fair amount of bad stuff, and I was like, hey, what if I just did something else that didn't have like a big AAA company behind it? I'll learn to make my own assets. I don't need the Unreal Asset Store or the Marketplace or whatever it's called. And then I spent a really long time learning Blender from scratch. There's another energy cell down there, and another one down there. You know, Doom Eternal was really slick, and it was gorgeous. Why is Mount Horu at 97%? Oh, is it because of that last energy cell? Is that part of Mount Horu? I'm actually really looking forward to playing Doom 2016 and Eternal on stream. Those games are exceptionally fun. Eternal especially, like, you can do some really slick movement in that game. Like, especially once you unlock the super shotgun with the grappling hook on it. Yeah, the yeet hook. You know what's up. You hook is the name of a glitch? Oh. I thought you just meant like the grappling hook in general. I really like the grappling hook in that game, especially once you get the upgrade for it. That makes it The upgrade for it that makes it set things on fire. Because any enemy that's on fire that you kill drops armor. So it just kind of like creates this really nice feedback loop where like you're zipping around at super speed because you got the hook, and then everything that you like zip into gives you armor because you kill it on contact. And then you survive being in the middle of a bunch of enemies because you got armor. Let's see. Mount Horu is still at 97%, that's weird. Anyway. There's another energy cell down there. I'll go for that one. Are any of these things that I need to do this to? No, they are not. Ow. That was just there the whole time. I could have grabbed that at any point. Oh well. Okay, up and over. You know, one of my favorite things in Doom Eternal to do is to, one of my favorite things to do in Doom Eternal is to, like, use the grappling hook on, like, one of those enemies that, like, flies up really high. And just, like, throw myself, like, super high into the air. Like a slingshot around them. And then while I'm up there, I just pull out the sniper rifle and I'm just, like, taking pot shots all the way down. It's very satisfying. B-level, we take those. Can I afford anything? Oh, I still technically haven't unlocked this thing. I thought I had that. I didn't. Good to know. There's another energy cell just down here. Thank you for that. There's another thing down there, but that's just a batch of experience. Not quite as impactful as a whole entire upgrade. But I will take it nonetheless. I think that's where a keystone originally was. Need to find a switch for this. Oh, hey, a switch. Oh, this one's cute. There's like a cave painting here. Light spirits in love, and there's a pipe in the background. What? Alright. Got the stuff from down there. This thing there I may as well grab because it's right there. I feel simultaneously a bit accomplished and a bit annoyed that I got like 90+ completion on everything. Because it's like I did pretty well, but also I could have done better. Let's see. Oh, there's a lifestyle up there. This is also, I guess, sort of practice for the randomizer, because this game has a randomizer that I want to do at some point. I'll probably give it a slight break before jumping straight back into it, but having at least vaguely in my head a notion of where things are would be good for that. And then I ran into every single spike along the way. I never did find the keystone from Mount Horu, come to think of it. I found the place to put it. I didn't find it. That's probably that last bit of completion percentage that I don't have. There's an energy cell over there. And I think I'm actually as close to it as I'm gonna get. Oh, might want to get up here. Perhaps using this. I was prepared for some proper shenanigans, but no, there was merely an uptrap. Let's see. I'm mostly interested in like the really big pickups, like energy cells and such. Do I have all of them actually? No, I don't. I'm missing 2 life cells, 1 energy cell, and 5 ability cells. Oh, there's 2 of those right there. 3 of those right there, Valley of the Wind. I think I actually could have gotten those earlier when I was like, oh, I need a thing that I don't have to get those. I think I was under the impression that there was like an upgrade for this that made it explosive. Because I forgot that I could use the wall clinging like charge dash thing to break walls. And I was like, clearly I need a grenade for that. It's logical. I don't think these kids got the memo that, Kuro's cool with me. Actually, wait, never mind. This is, I think, no, ow. I think I technically went back in time to before the ending. So Kuro is so mad. There has been no memo. There we go. And now I can see through walls. Okay, the next 2 are just down there. There we go, a DPS increase. There are so many things left to use it on. I presume that's the map stone. There's a life thing down there, there's an ability thing over there. May as well get that because I'm so close. Or I could get got by a frog. It's all kind of the same if you don't think about it too hard. Oh, actually, you know what it might be? It might be that map stones are interchangeable. I could just assume that, like, a map stone was exclusively for a given area. But the phrasing on that pickup is just like, hey, you can take this to any map stone. Mistakes were made. Interact with the Shrouded Lantern. Oh, I can turn it off and on again. That's cool. Yoink. I wonder if I was meant to find that on the first pass. If so, oops. Oh well, all's well that ends well. There's a life cell down there. In the Forlorn Ruins. Which might have helped me there. Forlorn Ruins. There actually appears to be a fair amount of the map here that's just, like, not visible. Oh right, it's this place. I was like, what was the deal here again? Yeah, I could use the mapstone fragment here. May as well. Not incredibly eliminating, but also not eliminating. The risk I took was calculated, but my math skills could use improvement. feel like dying in an attempt to improve your vitality is like one of the more counterintuitive things you can do. Or counterproductive counterproductive at least. I'm not sure if I'm getting one-shot, or if I'm just dying on account of having, like, no hit points. Or both. Maybe it's instant death and I have really low hit points. Right, now I got that, now I gotta get out. There is one more of each major pickup in the entire game. And then I got caught. That could have ended poorly, and it would have been entirely my fault. But it didn't. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll try to get those last 3 pickups and then I'll call it. I could scour the map for absolutely everything, but... Okay, the energy cell is in Mount Horu. The life cell is in Sorrow Pass. Where might the ability cell be? If I could zoom out a bit more without it, going into, like, the world map view, that'd make this a lot easier. It might also have just been on screen and I didn't notice. I wouldn't put such a thing past me. There it is. Okay, they're actually right next to each other in Sorrow Pass. Sorrow Pass, then Mount Horu, and I will let that be the end of Ori for tonight. But we're not at that point yet. Okay. I want to get to that main sort of like artery through this mountain. Is artery the right term when it's not actually organic? I feel like I guessed the point enough I feel like I guessed the point across well enough that it doesn't matter if it's not correct. In essence, even if it's not right, it should be right by virtue of merit. Once again, my inability to distinguish background from foreground has caused me minor inconvenience. Oh, that was fast. Wait a minute. What? I was dropping really fast there. Right, maybe that was just because I wasn't, like, pausing every few seconds. My excuse for that is that I've got a very bad sense of direction. And I don't want to get lost. Right? My life is now maxed out. Okay, there's a switch nearby somewhere. Trying to think where it might be. Because I can see through walls now, so... it's not gonna be, like, hidden behind anything. Or at least not where I can't see it. Also, incidentally, even though this is the last ability cell in the game, it doesn't represent the end of my ability to clear out my tree here, because I can just grind points. What if I do this? Nope. Oh, here we are. I had sight, but that was still kind of sneaky. Is that enough to actually buy anything? Let's find out. Yes, it is. Improves the radius and damage of charge flame. And then the last thing to pick up is in Mount Horu. So I just have to find my way back to a well. Which shouldn't be too difficult with everything opened up. I'll ride this up past 2 intersections. Or up to the second intersection, I suppose I should say. Yes. I was like, hold on a second, shouldn't I make like a checkpoint? Yes, I should have. Alright, Mount Horu. Okay, the last thing is all the way in the upper right by the looks of it. Not gonna lie, did not expect to survive getting squished. But I did. There we go. And that's not 100% completion, but that is, I believe, every major pickup. 98% is good enough for me. I think we'll call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Wednesday. I'm thinking that it's going to be the start of a Ocarina of Time Master Quest playthrough, my first time playing that particular variant. And I'll be doing it on Shiv of Harkinian. So it'll be a bit less jank than it would be on N64. As for what I'll be doing on Friday, which is when I otherwise would have been playing another Ori session, I haven't decided yet. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful night. I hope to see you again. I wonder if there's anybody else playing Ori that we can raid. There appears to be a French-English femboy playing this game, so let's raid them. Alright, have an absolutely wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.